Hi there, my name is Cupicate and welcome back to Planet Zoo. This is a new series as it has been a really long time since I played Planet Zoo. There's been a lot of new packs that they've released, and just about a week ago maybe, they announced that a new pack will be coming out. The picture looked really awesome. It looks like there's going to be a palace cat, which I love those. We actually have some at our local zoo, so that's exciting. But today we are starting a new zoo. So this is Whispering Heights Zoo, and we are currently working on the barn for some caribou. We're going to be starting out with caribou. This front area is not the entrance. Obviously, I did not start with the entrance because I could spend so much money making that and have no money to be made because we need some animals. We'll do the entrance in some later episodes. Right now, I want to focus on getting some habitats built and doing the first area for the guest as well. So we're starting with this barn because I want to focus on some of the barnyard animals as well as eventually the taiga wildlife. This is called Calder's Keep. So it's going to be a village. The theme is kind of based on a game called Skyrim, where they have the dark woods, the thatch roofs, the dirt roads. And if you don't know what Skyrim is, feel free to look it up. Specifically, the village Riverwood has a lot of buildings like this. So with that being the inspiration, you can see that I'm adding a whole bunch of thatch to this roof. I'm also using all of the Arctic wood pieces and some of their decor pieces because it does have that rustic old feel to them. I love how the wood looks so aged, so it just made sense for this area. We're going to carry this theme probably throughout all of Calder's Keep. I even have a fun idea about building a tavern-style restaurant where our guest can eat and drink and sit, as well as a gift shop because that is a really good way to make some money. Because this is franchise mode, we do have to make sure we make decisions that are smart in making some money so we can continue to build beautiful habitats. That being said, I don't actually completely finish the barn this episode because I didn't want the episode to be so very long. We'll be finishing it in the next episode, as well as adding some foliage to our beautiful caribou's habitat out in the field so it isn't just a grassy plain. What's funny about that is they don't mind, but I don't like looking at just plain grass, and they don't mind what coverage goes into it, so super excited to see what I can do with the foliage. So in this part of the zoo, we're going to continue with making habitats for the barnyard pack animals. I know they aren't the most exciting animals, but I think that they are really cute. I love the designs that they did and the textures that they used for some of these barnyard animals. I also chose that to kind of get them out of the way because we can then focus on more of the exotic wildlife. After Calder's Keep is completely done, finished, and we leave it forever, we're going to move on to what I'm calling Kiba's Kingdom. Kiba's Kingdom will house all of the more exotic taiga animals. So wolves, some of the bears, the lynx, I think even the Amur leopard we can put in here. And so we'll have to kind of step away from the building designs like this and move more into the rock and using terrain to make these animals feel at home and our guests feel like they walked into the woods and now they're seeing these animals live their lives. I want these habitats to truly feel like home. I want to make them exceedingly large. It might make it hard for our guests to see all the animals, but I just see how small some of the requirements are, and I'm like, nah, I want them to have so much space. So we're going to be focusing on making sure they have plenty of space, live some happy lives. I don't want the animals to feel like they're in a zoo. I want them to feel like they're in a home. Now, that being said, I don't know if I'm necessarily going for a full realism zoo. Maybe semi-realism, But I don't want to put that pressure on myself to say it's a full realism zoo. I do want to have like cool staging areas for our staff workers. I've seen a lot of Planet Zoo players do that, and I think that is just so cool. Even though they're not actively used, I love seeing that in these builds where the staff essentially keep all their tools and everything that they need for the animals. Love that. So I guess that might be a little more on the realistic side, but again, don't want that pressure on me to do full realism. Now, if y'all have any ideas for some fun builds we could do for staff or guests, or even ideas for habitats, I would love to hear them, so feel free to comment them down in the comments below. I can't guarantee that I can use every idea you have, but it always helps to have that extra person because creativity is endless, especially when you have multiple people using ideas. So I would love to hear what y'all think and any ideas that you have. Also, you might have seen in the cinematic intro, one of our mama reindeer actually did finally have a baby. So anytime we have new babies in the zoo, I would love to name them after one of your suggestions. So feel free to also post in the comments any suggestions you have for some baby caribou. I think all of our females are currently pregnant except for the one that just had her calf. I won't, however, be renaming any of the animals we get from the trading center. I like to think that because they're all adults, they've already lived their life with that name, they understand that name, and so changing it just kind of feels weird to me, but the babies are up to us. Now, on to the next topic, which is why did I start playing Planet Zoo again, which is kind of a fun and sad story. So, as many of you know, I injured my knee really badly. I was on my way to pick up hubby from a game night that he had, and I rolled my ankle, which would be the second time I had done that, and I skinned my knee on the pavement of the driveway. It was bad. I was super upset because I had been so excited to start making videos again for the channel, but it hurt, and it was very distracting. So in my depression, I saw some videos pop up on my YouTube feed that were Planet Zoo, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch. And there are some incredible creators out there. I mean, insanely incredible. One of my favorite channels is Pacha, I think. I hope that's how you pronounce it. But he does some beautiful builds, and I was just so inspired. I'm like, maybe I'll try Planet Zoo. So while I was healing up, I was playing probably obsessively for a little bit. I think my husband used the word obsessively when I talked to him about Planet Zoo. And I started to play around with things, play around with some builds and ideas. I looked for inspiration through other YouTube channels, and like I said, incredible creators out there. I don't think I'll even ever come close to what they can do, but I certainly will try, and hopefully through this series become a better builder, learn some things, and perfect certain things. Like rotation is still really awkward for me for some reason. I'm like, why is this thing rotating, but I'm not rotating it? So I still have a lot to learn. And if y'all have any tips, tricks, whatever, things to share, I am so open to reading those. Please don't be afraid to share. Obviously, just be nice because I'm still very much a newbie player. I only played this once before, and I mostly did the career mode because I was trying to learn. I still feel like I didn't learn much. And then it's been so long, I'm having to relearn everything. But yeah, it was kind of a place of solace that I found in this game. After hurting so bad and then thusly being super depressed by it. I'm so tired of injuring myself, y'all. I can't even. So be careful. Wear good shoes. Wear good shoes. I was wearing some super flat flats because I don't like the feeling of shoes. So I wear like really thin flats, but obviously that has no ankle support. And so I fell. But I'm much better now, just so y'all know. My knee is perfectly healed. Definitely gonna scar, but oh well, it's my battle scar now. Can't really be sad about it. My hope for continuing to play this game is that I actually complete a zoo. I don't know if we'll be able to fit every animal, although that would be amazing. That'd be a great goal, but I do get burnt out with games sometimes, so I'm just really hoping I don't get burnt out with this game. It's kind of like Minecraft in a way, where you can create new things at all times, so I'm really hoping that that aspect of the game kind of keeps me entertained long enough to make an entire zoo. For the Keepus Kingdom area, I'm not entirely sure what animal I want to start with for a habitat. So give me some suggestions with that too. I know I'm asking a lot of you guys. I'm so sorry. I have no idea why I'm asking y'all so much in the comments. I think because I want y'all to truly be a part of this. Like any series we have, I really love making y'all a part of it because it feels more like a group effort than me just making a video for you to watch. You actually get to be a part of the series. So sorry if I'm asking a lot, but I'm really curious, what animal beyond the barnyard animals would you like to see in our taiga area? I'm really excited obviously for wolves, but the lynx also seems really cool. I've seen some amazing builds where people do like these mesh domes and they look amazing. They use like a duplication thing with a mud cylinder, and I'm still trying to perfect that a little bit, but I think once I do, I could do some fun shapes in some of these builds. I also am excited to use the exhibits that they created for like the sloths, the bats, the butterflies. I could definitely see a butterfly exhibit possibly being in Keepus Kingdom. We could kind of design it to fit the area, but I also like the idea of doing a fantasy themed area and the butterflies going in there. We could have like mushrooms and like glowing plants and stuff in there with the lighting. It could be really, really pretty. I could ramble on about future ideas for the entire episode, but I'm not going to do that. We're going to pop back into looking at this current build. I think my favorite part of this build was using the glass, the diamond-shaped glass. There's a name for it. I can't remember. But I chose to recolor it with green and brown. I also wanted it to look like old-time glass, and a lot of the old-time glass is like almost brown colored. But I wanted some green in there because green is my favorite color. I also wanted to create kind of archways. I was trying to make this a interactive habitat because you can have guests interact with the caribou, but you'll see later that didn't quite work out. For some reason on the bridge that you might have seen during the speed build, guests were hopping off the bridge into the habitat, and I tried everything to fix it and it wouldn't work, so I had to take away the guest entrances. I was like, well, if you can't behave yourself, you don't get it. That was essentially my attitude about the whole thing. I don't know if it's a bug or just the way I designed it. The guest just hopped off the bridge because the bridge is kind of low to the ground. I didn't want to make a super high bridge because I like the idea of things being accessible to everyone, including those who are disabled. So I made it kind of low, thinking like something easy to push a wheelchair up. Because usually when I go to the zoo with hubby, I push him in a wheelchair because it's a lot of walking for him. And so that way he can truly enjoy being at the zoo and he doesn't have to miss out on getting to go. So it's really nice. Our zoo here locally, it does make sure that everything is kind of level, even though we live in Colorado and that's hard to do. Unlike the Colorado Springs Zoo, which is really, really wonderful. It's just, they're in the mountains, and I imagine it was super hard for them, so pushing Matt up a giant hill is kind of hard. Poor hubby. But our local zoo is pretty flat. There are a few hills, but they did a really good job. And so I wanted to make sure the zoo did the same. Wanted to make it accessible to everyone, enjoyable for everyone, regardless of whether you can walk or you need a wheelchair assistance. But that bridge is so low that I think the guests thought they could just walk into it. And I had a river running through it, and I hadn't built a rock walkway just yet. I wanted to go ahead and open the zoo and let it play so we could make some money. which was a mistake because the guest got trapped on the other side of the river. They couldn't even get to the caribou unless the caribou walked or swam over to them. And then we were not getting any money because they would just disappear entirely, like off of the zoo, off the map. So there were no donations. They weren't buying anything. They just ceased to exist. It was so strange, and I was like tanking in money. I ended up having to take out a loan. Never had that happen before in franchise, and I have a whole nother zoo in franchise mode that's doing really, really well. With the barnyard animals, because I wanted to do some practice. No issues there, but there's no bridge that's directly next to the habitat like it is in this zoo, so I just think it was something with the AI pathing and the bridge specifically. So no interaction between caribou and guests, but honestly, I think that's fine. I don't really know why Planet Zoo thought that was a good idea. I know that caribou can be tamed and have been tamed, but they're big and they have antlers. Like, even the females have antlers, which isn't super common for ungulates in general. Most of the females do not have antlers, but caribou are the exception, which I think is so cool. It makes them one of my favorite ungulates because the females have antlers. Honestly, this whole experience with having to deal with the pathing and having to get rid of the interactive gates and remove all the paths so that guests could no longer interact made me want to research caribou in general and see what places may have domesticated them and their behaviors. Like, are they docile? I would imagine they're relatively docile. Otherwise, I don't think humans would have tried, but I could be wrong. I'm not very knowledgeable about caribou in general, and so I kind of want Planet Zoo to be a learning experience for me and for you guys. I watch so many Planet Zoo creators, and they usually have some really fun facts about the animals they're building habitats for, and I don't have that. I haven't, as much as I love animals, I have not done enough research. Like, I do watch documentaries, but they really talk about animals and their behaviors in the wild, but you don't really think about the domestic animals when you're watching those documentaries, or I haven't watched any documentaries about domesticated animals, which, since that's what we're going to be focusing on here in the beginning, I think I should. And learn facts about how animals are domesticated, how that affects the world as we know it. Like, was that a good idea? Was that a bad idea? How does it affect our world? How does it affect our earth? So yeah, it's opened up a lot of questions and opportunity for learning, which any game that does that really gets an A++ in my book, because it's so easy to just play mindless games because it's fun. But this game is not only fun and sparks that creative side of my brain, it makes me want to learn, which is awesome. So once again, down in the comments, if you want to put any fun facts about caribou or reindeer, the game actually calls them reindeer, I would love to read about that. And any sites that you might list that talks about caribou and any domestication of that. I know that there's still wild caribou, thank goodness. But I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated for if they are domesticated at all. What purpose was their domestication? The only thing that I've ever heard about reindeer being domesticated is the tale of Santa Claus and his 9 reindeer. But other than that, yeah, I mean, I would imagine they could be very, very useful in extremely snowy areas, cold areas, the same way that huskies have been used for pulling sleds. My huskies they don't pull sleds. They just snuggle, and they like to play, and they like to run, but no sled pulling for Calder and Kiba. Although I will say, Calder could pull a sled. That boy is strong. He is a strong being. Like, it is so hard to play tug of war with him. I got to a point where I had to ask him, like, if you want me to play, you're gonna have to drop the toy. And he's gotten better where we can play fetch rather than tug of war, but tug of war is definitely his favorite game. But I digress. Yes, I want to learn more about the animals we're making exhibits for. I kind of want to read up on it, and maybe at some point in these episodes, I can talk about some of these animals, as long as y'all want to hear it. I know that you're coming for the builds and the entertainment, but I do think using games as a learning experience is a great way to take something that can be so mind-consuming and expand it into how it benefits your knowledge. Now, for this part of the build, doing the arch thing underneath the rounded thatch roof, that one was tough. I thought it looked really cool until I tried to essentially duplicate it and move it to the back. Made me realize that the roof isn't actually perfectly center. And you can't tell unless you're literally standing on the roof and looking from the inside up at the top that it isn't quite center. I tried really hard to fix it. That's one of those things that I want to perfect and work on because, oh boy, it was not, it drove me insane, but I literally could not continue to work on it because it was making me upset. And I'm like, this is supposed to be fun. If it's not fun, I need to stop what I'm doing. So I moved on. Best decision ever. And then the cool thing about the barnyard pack is it gave us some really awesome fences that we could just use. Now, I do think that making custom fences is way better, but for the sake of finances, obviously, I thought using the rustic fence was a good option. Plus that the lighter color of the fence matched the light color in the Arctic wood. So it fit really well. It didn't look out of place. And it was just a cheaper and easier option to go ahead and make the space for our caribou, as well as a walkout from the barn where if people didn't want to interact with them, they could just look out of this little area that I'm working on right now. And since the interaction didn't work out, this was probably the smartest idea I ever made. Because it still gave opportunity for the guests to look at our caribou without the interaction. I also know for a fact I did make this habitat way too big for them, but them being caribou, they do typically have large herds, so it just means that we're going to have an opportunity to have several in the same area. It's going to be a little more pressure on our keepers to keep the habitat clean, so we might end up hiring, another keeper or two just for this one habitat because we don't want disease to run rampant if it doesn't get cleaned. Or at least just to have one keeper work exclusively on this habitat and hire other keepers for the rest of Calder's Keep. I also wanted to make kind of little stalls for them. The stalls are available for guests to look through them. Because the habitat is so big, if they wanted to get away from guests, they could essentially go just far away. Because the habitat is so big, they could just get a relief by just leaving the barn. But the barn is going to have the bedding that they require. It's also going to have some information, education, signs, boards, probably a speaker up in there as well that gives you some information about caribou. And I do think that this build in particular is so pretty, it deserves an animal talk area. I just haven't decided where to put that. And then I really wanted to make a river run underneath this bridge. I struggled so much with the water. So much. I wanted the water to be higher than it is in the video right now. I did make it work though, and I thought, you know what? I could really make this beautiful using some rock, and some of the aquatic rock specifically has rock piles. And here in Colorado, some of the rivers that you see, especially through the mountains, they're so rocky right up on the creek part or the river bank. There's really no sand or dirt. It's all rock. And so this kind of ended up being a good thing that I couldn't get the water all the way up to the edge, because now it's going to look like a river from Colorado. Now, we don't have caribou here in Colorado. We have elk, we have deer, I think we have moose. I have heard of moose being in Colorado, but I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on that. We have pronghorn as well. I will say the elk here are so beautiful when you do spot them. But no, we don't have caribou. But I am going to take some influence from my state because I actively get to go out into nature and experience these things and see these things. So it makes it easier for me to recreate those real life features that we have in nature into a game. So I think I'm just going to use this river struggle as a happy accident and make it into something absolutely beautiful in the next episode when we focus more on the foliage and making the scene for this habitat, making it a true home for our caribou, like I mentioned before. Now in this part, you can see that I'm kind of making a dam almost, but I wanted there to be a little hole that was still open and put some iron bars so it looks like the water can still get through, but our caribou can't swim under the bridge and out of the habitat. And because of this, I thought, what could I do with that lake over there to possibly make that an exhibit? And I was thinking beavers. We could have beavers that you could see on the other side of the bridge and maybe do like a watermill sort of thing. Again, thinking about future stuff while we're still working on the Caribou Corner, but I want to use nature to create the habitats rather than just making boxes that people can go in and then they just see the animals. I want it to look alive. Also, you might see back over there while I'm just waiting for something to happen. I don't know what I'm waiting for. Oh yes, I'm realizing that the guests are hopping over the bridge. This is what's happening right now. Oh no. Yeah, this is the part where I'm like, this is not gonna work. So I ended up removing the guest gates and now the habitat is closed and everyone's using the bridge for some reason, but I'm hoping once we add more food and water stalls, they'll actually move towards the barn, into the barn, and be able to see the caribou from the other points that I created for them. All right, so the build is mostly completed. We're gonna have to finish it in the next episode, like I said before. I cannot believe I spoke for almost a half an hour while watching a speed play. But thank you all so much for being here. I really hope you enjoyed this. If you did, make sure to tickle and poke that like button, subscribe to join our family if you haven't already, and jingle the bell to get notified of when I post more videos. I love you guys. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next episode of Planet Zoo.